For today, I want to talk about 3 strategies to help you guys win your fantasy basketball seasons this year. Before I begin, feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more fantasy basketball content, and let's jump right into the video. Strategy number 1 that I don't think a lot of people are aware of is to use your IR spots effectively. Take Ja Morant, for example. Now would be a great time to trade for him because his value will have plummeted due to the injury he just suffered, especially if he's on a team who needs points every week to make the playoffs. If you're comfortable with the rest of your team, then go ahead and trade for him. Once you move him to your IR, that allows you to work the waiver wire each week, looking for the next player to turn into a fantasy god. Looking at you, Rashawn Holmes. Not only that, but if you do happen to strike gold, you can then form a trade package with your brand new waiver addition and a good player, form your team, to trade for one great player. The reason why this will win your fantasy league is because you would have had to drop your waiver addition, in this example, Rashawn Holmes, when Ja Morant becomes healthy again anyway. So you've essentially upgraded your one good player to a great player for the cost of nothing, because Holmes would have had to leave anyway. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'll move on to the second strategy now. Strategy number 2 is to recognize player value. What this means is to recognize when players are at their lowest and highest fantasy values. We've all seen these streaks when normally good players turn absolutely ice cold and fall into a deep slump. These are the exact players you're going to want to trade for. Take Pascal Siakam, for example. He's having an absolutely terrible start to the season, but he was a really good fantasy player last year. One of the best predictors on fantasy of how well a player will perform this season is their fantasy numbers from last season. Unless they're becoming an old man like CP3 or have suffered a devastating injury, players rarely regress that far from their previous season fantasy numbers, and especially not a young number one option for his team like Spinny Pete. Take advantage of situations like this, and then try not to get too dizzy when you watch him get you fantasy points with all those spin moves. On the flip side of this, and just because I like talking about him, when a player's fantasy value is insanely high because they're on a hot streak, like the GOAT Julius Randle, now would be a great time to trade him if he's on your team. He's going to come back down to earth eventually, as much as we don't want to hear that, so you might as well try to maximize his trade value by getting as much positive return as you possibly can. So finally, the third strategy may seem obvious, but it's to stay active on your waiver wire and active with your team. I've seen countless times where people simply don't set their lineups, losing out on valuable points each night. Set your lineups in advance so you don't have to worry about forgetting on the day of. Last thing I want to mention is to check up on your league's waiver wire each day to see who might have become available. If there's somebody that looks to be trending in the upwards direction, whether it be because someone on their team got hurt so there's more responsibility entrusted to them, or you're sure they've made the leap this season, or even if they just quietly went undrafted, this ensures that you can take advantage. So those are my 3 tips or strategies, whatever you want to call them, that will be crucial in determining if you'll win your fantasy league or not this season. Hopefully this helps. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.